Let me see if I can name these characters. So you got Rise. You got Aurelian Soul. I don't know who that is yet. That's Jin, right? You got Kindred. And this guy who's holding a big shield. I don't know who this guy is. Okay, so I don't know a couple of them. Braum. This dude with the shield is Braum. Illaoi and Braum. And I'm assuming Illaoi's from, like, Bilgewater or something along those lines, and Braum is from Freljord, obviously. Illaoi is Bilgewater? Cool. Okay, here we go. She's a priestess of the sea god? Cool, cool.
Well, it took them a while, but Kayle and Morgana were revealed. And although I can tell you right now that their story is pretty cool, you better wait for the next video. Especially if
Morgana's the dark one, right? Kayle's the light one.
you avoided all spoilers. That one's going to be much bigger. But today we are talking about Kayle and Morgana. First of all, we were right. They really do have 6 wings as we predicted. If you have a look at Morgana, she also does have 6 wings. A pair on her head, a pair on her butt, and the main pair of wings is actually bound by chains. But that's not all. Not only do we know that Morgana's abilities didn't change at all.
The Righteous and the Raven? Hold on, sorry, I'm gonna be pausing a lot.
Wings is actually bound by chains. But that's not.
The Righteous and the Fallen. Are they sisters or are they the same fucking person? They are sisters. Right, okay, they're twins. Oh, well, get into some interesting territory there, especially if they're twins, because, yeah.
Not all. Not only do we know that Morgana's abilities didn't change.
Split by her mortal and celestial self, but wholly opposed to the unyielding ideology of her twin sister. The Dark Enchantress has been visually updated to match her divine origin. Morgana has bound her wings by choice, reflecting her connection to humanity and our shared suffering. Yo, what the fuck? But her ultimate reveals her birthright. In addition, so her wings go full blown, I assume in that case. In addition, the Fallen's shadowy spells have new animations, already a powerful pick in both mid and bot lane, whatever. Morgana's abilities remain the same, save for her ultimate, which now grants move speed. Okay, I don't care about that. Justice is a lie of the powerful.
At all, Kayle changed slightly, and the majority.
Okay, I mean, she looks badass, dude. Only the guilty need fear me. Yeah, so she's the opposite of the Justice. Well, this one is the Justice, I mean. Interesting.
The majority of their skins were remade from the ground up.
Their mother was the aspect of Justice. Well, their mom must have been fucking super hot, too, because it runs in the family, dude. It runs in the design of this game, truly, but, like, what the fuck? Yeah, give some, like, Valkyr vibes, obviously just right off the rip. Wait till he sees? Oh.
For example, this is the new Battleborn Kayle, Silver Kayle, and Unmasked Kayle. But we also got their stories already. Now, when I was reading them, I realized that it is a story structured like the story of Victor and Jace. Both champions have a story seen from their point of view, but only if you combine them will you get the full picture.
It's like light and dark, baby. Very nice. It's like Alliance and Horde. I love that.
Exactly the same with Kayle and Morgana. At first I thought that I would just go through their stories one by one, but then a lot of you wouldn't make all the cool connections. So instead, I decided to combine the 2 storylines to give you the best description of what actually happened to them. So with that, let's slowly get into the complete story of Kayle and Morgana. Their story begins during the early stages of the Rune Wars, which was a global conflict during which humans figured out how to use the world runes that were scattered across the planet. Unfortunately,
world runes give me like World of Warcraft Pillar of Creation vibes. So when the Celestials left, well, sorry. Slow your roll, Pyro. When the Titans left Azeroth, their keepers, and they had apparently made these artifacts imbued with like celestial powers of their own that would help them shape and forge the world to the will of the Titans. So they used these things as basically like giant magical foci. They weren't giant. They were like artifacts about yay big that were powerful magical foci that they could use to basically like shape the world itself. The world runes give me like big pillars of creation kind of vibes where like they're heavily like magically imbued artifacts that can be either used for like shaping or absolute destruction, depending on who's wielding them. So yeah, obviously it just kind of reminds me of that. So I would assume, if this isn't already known, I would assume that they're left over from Celestials.
The world runes are essentially little keys to the power that created Runeterra, so you can imagine the destruction such power can cause. The Rune Wars spread across both Valoran and Shurima, so escaping the conflict was nearly impossible.
As far as we know, in World of Warcraft, there was no war, so it's not really the same. The Night Elves gathered them all, and then, you know, they actually have, like, temples where they have them depicted as wielding them, like Queen Ashara, among others, so that's very interesting. In their elven forms, her wielding the Tidestone, so... but we don't know of any war like that in World of Warcraft. But anyway, I'll try not to make too many comparisons.
During these dark times, Mount Targon stood as a beacon of light. Legends say that the Targon's chosen heroes can save humanity from certain destruction. So out of desperation, two Targonians, Mihira and Kayle, decided to test their own fate. They decided to climb the mountain to save their tribe.
Of how he uses WoW
Even when
models.
they learned that Mihira was heavy with a child, they pressed on. When they reached the mountain summit, a place where Runeterra touches the stars.
She's already got child, so I'm assuming she's got the children in there already, and then she becomes like an aspect or something, and then they're born from that.
It was Mihira who was chosen as a divine vessel for the aspect of justice, wielding a sword that blazed with a fire brighter than the sun. Kayle watched his lover from a distance, with both wonder and fear. After that, the couple returned not only with the salvation they sought, but also with twin daughters.
There you go.
Morgana and Kayle, one as dark as the other was bright. Interestingly enough, this is the first time we have ever heard about an avatar of an aspect having children. Morgana and Kayle were literally born from an aspect's vessel. Although Mihira's powers...
Does that make them like demigods? What is that?
...were more than enough to save their tribe, it also had its dark side. The more she attended her duties, the more her human side began to back away. This is something we observed with Pantheon before. She often shoved her two daughters into Kayle's arms before she leapt away into yet another war. This happened night after night, always abandoning her children to answer battle's call. Just like that, Mihira became a fearsome warrior, greater than any mortal. But Kayle began to fear her new divinity, and on top of that, her celestial light attracted dangerous sorcerers. In fact, they were now in more danger than before. Kayle endured this for many months, but as uncertainty gnawed at him, he came to a realization. The war still raged on countless fronts, and his beloved wife was slipping away. He couldn't just sit around Targon, hoping to avoid danger with his two daughters in arms. He had to act now. So he waited for Mihira to leave once more, and then he fled Targon with both of them.
Oh, fuck.
He knew about a place where the land
She's not gonna be very happy about that.
itself offered protection against magic. It was across the Conqueror's Sea. There was a settlement in a region that did not have a name yet.
Demacia?
But decades later, it would be known as the Kingdom of Demacia. There, in their new homeland, Kayle raised the twins on his own.
Isn't that so dangerous? They're inherently magical users. They're descendants of a fucking... What the fuck? That seems very dangerous.
Characteristics growing different with each passing day. Kayle
It was before Demacia was built. Were they still anti-magic at this point, or was it before that? Oh, it was before. Oh. Right. Okay, good. That's good. Oh, fuck. I was gonna say, that's like the worst place you could take them, dude. What the fuck?
cautious.
The woods still absorb magic, though. Right, because that's what all their stuff is, like, built out of.
Arguing with the settlement's leaders about their rules. She could do so because she studied the settlement's growing set of laws in her free time. Though she had no real memory of her mother's powers, somehow, as if it was an echo of justice, she knew the laws were meant to keep them all safe. Her father rarely spoke of such things, but Kayle was certain Mihira had saved them by ending the rune wars on some distant battlefield. While this sounds like a hint of a future story, right now we don't actually know how the rune wars ended. Morgana, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. Instead of strictly following the laws, she would rather spend her time talking to people and meeting all the new refugees. During those times, the petrified
it's like light and dark, order and chaos, justice and vengeance.
forest became a well-known hideout. So people from all
Not evil, but yeah, like kind of like lawful good, chaotic good. One more earthly and one more divine.
across the globe fled here to save their lives. This became a problem since the new settlement was now accepting everyone, no matter their gender, race or species. So naturally there was a certain distrust among all people. And eventually mages and untrusted individuals were cast out, because they could bring dangers to the others inside. This was the very first spark of the typical Demacian racism. Morgana tried to fight it back, and she often ventured outside their borders, to bring the outcast mages at least some comfort. At home, Morgana felt her father's heartbreak at leaving Mihira behind.
Oh, it's such a fun contrast then, because one could honestly, even though she's the dark one, you could look at Morgana as like, I don't want to say better, but for the downtrodden and outcast, she's more empathetic to that concept for them. Whereas I'm assuming her sister is not.
She grew bitter at her mother for causing such pain. Morgana also feared that Kayle might carry some remnant of the Aspect's power. Her dedication to law and justice was a strong hint after all. But unfortunately, this fear was later confirmed. A blade breath in shadow and starfire fell from the heavens. It pierced the ground and split in two. Kayle wept when he recognized the blade. It belonged to Mihira, and his weeping didn't stop when he realized what was about to happen.
A crazy celestial sword came from space and slammed into the ground. I'm not saying it's a copy, I'm just saying that's an interesting similarity. Just a really interesting concept, especially since this comes from the aspect of Justice, who has a flaming sword. Interesting.
Kayle and Morgana were to become twin angels. Kayle didn't hesitate to pick up one half of the broken blade. As she did so, feathered wings sprung from her shoulders. In that moment, Kayle felt more connected to her mother than ever. She was certain this was a sign that she was alive, and she wanted her daughters to follow the same path as her. Morgana cautiously picked up the other half of the blade, and joined Kayle in her ascension. But while Kayle embraced the new calling, Morgana resented her gifts. Her powers didn't exactly match her ideals. She wanted to protect people against pain, not to dish it out. But that ideal changed when their settlement was raided. Kayle found himself surrounded as the fighting spread. In that moment, Morgana rushed to shield him, burning the attackers to ash. Just like that, the twin angels saved countless lives. And the king—
It's really interesting. It's almost like the original Ascendant of Justice has the concepts that embody justice almost like split in two through her children, and that they are both inherently connected to it, but in different ways. It's almost like this, and maybe it's because of the connection with another human through their father, presumably. But I just think that's super interesting because it makes me just think of like the way that one thing as a whole can maybe be looked at with duality, and like they represent that duality. That's really sick, dude.
Kingdom shaped in their image. Morgana and Kayle became known as the winged protectors of Demacia. The people of the settlement believed that the girls had been blessed by the stars, destined to protect the newborn nation of Demacia from outsiders. These winged protectors became symbols of light and truth, and were revered by all. Kayle fought in many battles, flying at the head of the growing militia and imbuing the weapons of the worthy with her own sanctified fire. But in time, Kayle's pursuit of justice began to consume her. Seeing threats absolutely everywhere, outside or within their nation, she founded the Judicator Order to enforce the law. One of her followers, called Ronas, grew especially close to her faith. He was her champion that never failed her. But again, on the other side there was also Morgana. While Morgana wouldn't tamper with Kayle's new laws, she was much more forgiving. Sometimes there were mages and criminals who didn't want to cause pain. Sometimes people hurt each other in self-defense.
Yeah.
Kayle was far too extreme in her ideology to see the reasons behind these cases.
It reminds me a lot of like Imperius versus who's a lot about valor, but he's just very like, this is the law, this is the rule, don't fucking break it or there's gonna be punishment. Whereas Tyrael is more like, well, I get it, but it's not so black and white. Like, there's reasons why this happens. Like, we can't just, in the case of Diablo, we can't just eradicate everyone because they're a sin and born of an unholy, union. We have to recognize them for what they can be and what they are. Like, and like, that there's a reason why this stuff has happened. Like, you can't just blame the victims and think that you're just enacting justice, right? So, like I said before, in this way, Morgana seems a lot more like justice for the people, the downtrodden, the misunderstood, whereas Kayle is a lot more rigid and a lot more like by the book kind of thing, which is, again, it's awesome. It's the duality of justice and like the empathy and compassion that must also exist on one side, but also the rigidity and judgment that has to also exist. It's like, it's sick, dude. These characters are badass, man. This is badass.
but Morgana was willing to forgive those who wanted to atone for their crimes. This led to a new turning point. In time, Kayle's order saw Morgana herself as part of the evil they fought against.
Oh.
But Kayle could never brace herself to bring her justice on her own sister. So instead, Kayle's champion, Ronas, decided to do what Kayle could not. He approached Morgana and tried to imprison her. Unfortunately, death was the only possible outcome of their encounter, and Morgana was forced to shackle Ronas in dark flames. When Kayle returned to the settlement, not only did she find Ronas dead, but people were rioting. It seems like the nation was divided. Some were blind with Kayle's justice, but others saw the good Morgana spread around. But Kayle could not tolerate.
And so the cycle continues, man. Fuck. Oh, our actions have everlasting consequences. That's cool.
With Kayle's justice, but others saw the good Morgana spread around.
Yeah, their swords are a lot like Tayshalak and Gorabal coming together to make Gorshalak. Yep, again.
But Kayle could not tolerate this chaos. She swore to bring Ronas' killer to justice, and she summoned Divine Rain of Fire on the city.
Holy
In
fuck.
Kayle's eyes, she did it to cleanse the city of its sins. But it was obvious that she was affected by rage. Morgana...
Oh, really? You mean the descendant of a divine being whose alignment is justice and wields a flaming sword? You mean her rigid view of justice could be seen as cleansing the sin from the city with righteous fire? Yeah, I've definitely seen that before. Yeah, ever heard of the Burning Legion? Yeah, it didn't go well. It didn't go well.
Cleanse the city of its sins. But it was obvious that she was affected by rage. Morgana
Yeah,
had to
affected by rage. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
act quickly. She shot up into the sky, raised her blade, and met Kayle in close combat. Kayle knew that if she was to purge darkness from mortal hearts, she had to start with her own sister. The two fought with equal force of clashing light.
And that's always the folly of the rigid order of light. You can't purge darkness from mortal hearts. That's part of what makes them mortal. You can't do it. You can't just wash things like that away. If you do, it's called light forging, and it's probably not what you should be doing. And even then, there's darkness in that light too. Even in the holy light in World of Warcraft, there is void. It's inextricably linked. You can't get rid of it.
And shadow. Every time their blades met,
And you can't get rid of the light either. Yeah, they're ineffably bound.
blinding light and burning darkness lashed down at the buildings beneath them, slowly reducing the city to a pile of rubble. It seemed certain that one of them would eventually win, but the fight was halted by their father's anguished cry. Kayle lay in the rubble, mortal.
Yeah, because who is actually paying for this conflict? The mortals that they both want to protect or cleanse or whatever, right? So that's again, it's like the irony of like the destructive pursuit of justice. Is that when these ideals clash in this way, what else are you supposed to do? Right? It's the way that you are, but it's who pays the price. Often the people who you're saying that you're trying to protect.
Wounded. Howling with grief, Morgana hurled her half of their mother's sword at Kayle and plunged to the surface like a meteorite. She cradled her father, cursing their inheritance for the destruction around them. Kayle silently landed near them, and Morgana demanded to know if the smiting of wicked mortals included Kayle, whose crime was stealing them away from their mother. Kayle gave no answer, but soared into the heavens without looking back. What is interesting here is that from Kayle's point of view, Kayle was a senseless victim of the violence that had overtaken the city that day, even though that doesn't seem to be the truth. So it seems that while Kayle is calling down her justice on everyone who fits her criteria,
It's almost like she can't accept the truth. Ooh, and in that way, Morgana as the dark side. Oh, that's so Xalatath coded, bro. Oh, being able to recognize the truth so that your justice means something. Oh, that's so good if that's what that is, man. That's so good.
she lies to herself when others get caught in the crossfire,
Yup.
giving her a false sense of justice.
Oh my god, that's so good. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that.
After this, Kayle held to the two halves of her mother's blade, and she vowed she would never again let mortal emotions rule her. Then she leapt back into the sky, soaring so high above the clouds, she could almost see Mount Targon beyond the horizon. There she would seek perfect celestial clarity. There, she would stand at her mother's side and fulfill her legacy as the aspect of justice. Though she has been absent from Demacia for many centuries, Kayle's legend has inspired much of the kingdom's culture and law. Grand statues and icons of the Winged Protector give strength to the heart of every warrior who marches to illuminate the night. And
dude, oh, Demacia's so cool looking, dude. I love the white buildings, man. It's probably my favorite, like, visually, like, design-wise, my favorite area, dude. It's fucking, oh, it looks cool, dude.
Banish all shadows from their land.
Yeah, you can't banish all the shadow. That's not how that works. Shadow will always be bred in mortal hearts. There's nothing you can do about it.
The kingdom's culture and law. Grand statues and icons of the Winged Protector give strength to the heart of every warrior who marches to illuminate the night, and banish all shadows from their land.
And in my opinion, the things like pride, envy, vengeance, those are shadow anyways. So when you have societies that are built in this structure, inevitably the zealous warrior has shadow in them. Like you can't, the greatest sin, one might say, the greatest act of hubris is thinking that you can get rid of your pride, right? So when you give into that pride, when you give into that hubris, that zealous energy, that is dark. That is a form of darkness. So like, yeah, in my opinion, like even if they have the white coat of paint and all of the virtue signaling that they can possibly have, it's not it's not so simple.
In times of strife and chaos, there are many who,
I mean, you see that in what Demacia does to mages. Like, holy fucking shit. But anyway, sorry, let's continue this.
Shadows from their land. In times of strife and chaos, there are many who cling to the hope that Kayle might eventually return, and others who pray that such day will never come. Meanwhile, Morgana was on a different path. Her wings served as a constant reminder of her pain, so she tried to cut them from her flesh, but she couldn't find a blade strong enough to do so, which explains why her wings are messed up. So instead she bound them with iron chains, resolving instead to walk the world of mortals. Over the centuries her tale fell into myth, and the name Morgana was all but forgotten. To this day, the people of Demacia celebrate the Winged Protector, but recall only the glory and truth of one sister, while Morgana's dark outbursts and belief in personal redemption became the mysteries of the Veiled One.
What's so funny to me is I love the aesthetics of Kayle more, but I love the ideology of Morgana more. And so even for me, the way that I perceive these characters is like there's a duality there. That's pretty cool.
Through all of this, she still refuses to abandon those who would seek her aid.
This is her canon look, the Veiled Lady. Oh, nice. Yeah, she looks like a raven. Ooh, that's cool, dude. That's almost kind of like Xalatathi, to be honest. But yeah, with the one eye showing, that's cool.
And betrayed, she bides her time in the kingdom's shadows, knowing with certainty that Kayle's light will someday return to Runeterra, and all will face her judgment. As the magic begins to rise again, Morgana sees that dawn is nearly upon them. It is cool when you realize that the story of Kayle and Morgana pretty much kickstarted the current situation in Demacia. Kayle represented the pure justice ideology, which is something a lot of Demacians like to shout about. But Morgana stood on the other side. Morgana was protecting the mages and outcasts who didn't deserve to be kicked out.
So Morgana would be more on the side of someone like Silas, right? That's the guy who leads the rebellion against Demacia. Yeah, very much so. Whereas Kayle would be on the side of, what's his name, like Garen and the other chick that can use magic. What's her name? Garen and, what's the blonde girl's name? The Demacian high house lady or whatever that can... Lux. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So the mage conflict of Demacia goes all the way back to ancient times. It is also cool when you realize how Kayle's army originally fought.
So that's why they do that? The whole Demacian civil war is this Morgana and Kayle is the root of that? And the ideology of either side?
It is also cool when you realize how Kayle's army originally fought.
Basically. I feel like I really learned some cool stuff about Demacia today.
During battles, her most devoted soldiers had their blades enhanced by her light. She literally set their swords on celestial fire.
Through Silas, though Silas has his own issues. Okay.
This could potentially explain
In
what's
essence.
happening with Garen's ult. He calls upon the aspect of justice when he casts his ultimate, and with it, a holy blade of justice falls on his enemies. I am pretty sure this is a direct connection to Kayle. It's
I would
not
think
canon
so.
for the story, however. We have never seen Garen call upon any light in his lore, but at least it makes sense in the game now. The only thing that's kind of awkward is how did Demacia turn into this heavy anti-magic nation? Even though the story of Kayle and Morgana happened many decades before
Yeah,
the
right, that's what I'm kind of wondering, is I don't really follow that detail.
Kingdom of Demacia was properly built. The history of this place is still heavily tied to magic. Kayle was a celestial being. She literally used magic to protect her people.
Right.
So I wonder if Kayle using her light magic to accidentally destroy the city was the key to reigniting the hatred towards magic.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. How old is this video? This is obviously from 6 years ago. But yeah, that's a I don't know if that ends up being true, but that's a pretty cool idea that like due to the suffering, due to the retribution brought upon them by Kayle, that like that drove them to be like, no magic. We still don't know? Huh.
But if that's so, why do people still revere the angels? Why is Demacia building angelic wings everywhere if Kayle is the one who destroyed their early nation?
Crazy
I feel like
looking.
something is missing here. Or maybe
Yeah.
I missed a detail somewhere. But either way, that is it for Kayle and Morgana.
Kayle and her burning crusade.
It is a really cool piece of history that has much more information than I expected.
Well, what can happen is if you have someone like Kayle who gets so in denial of the truth, too prideful, too zealous, what can happen is you can have an inversion of alignment. You can have a philosophical inversion where even though she's dark, Morgana is seen and perceived and aligns more with what one might consider to be like the truthful justice of the light. And the light on the other side, Kayle, being unforgiving and cold, can begin to be seen as like the rebellious bad one. Like, oh, dude. I love it. I love it. You can have a complete complete inversion. Oh, dude, I love that. That's so sick, dude.
I'm not entirely sure who wrote the story, but I have to say, it is really good. The fact that we don't know what happened to Mihira, the original vessel of the aspect of justice, is a nice window for future stories. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
what if
pretty
she came
sure that
back?
she died because there was always only one vessel at a time. So if she
Fair.
split her power between Kayle and Morgana, Mihira has to be dead, which will be a nice surprise when
But if she split her power, again, it makes me wonder. I know that they're twin sisters, and you guys are like, yeah, they're sisters. But when we're talking about twins, and especially those imbued with the power of a fucking celestial, it's like, or aspect, it's like, they might be sisters, but their souls might be a little more connected than you might think. Like, they could literally be two halves of a single being, which I think is kind of suggested. They exist as two separate beings, sure, but I mean, yeah, looking at the colors of this, Mihira, I mean, that's gold and you got the purples and reds in there too. This is fundamental Twilight. Yeah, I just think that even this shows like where the purple and the gold meet, that's where you get the red. Like, this is fundamental Phoenix Twilight type shit. You know what I mean? So again, like these two, especially considering one of them, you know, light and dark, it feels almost like a soul split in two. And that's what empowered the each of them. So, and the fact that the sword came back and that they each wield a part of the sword, but neither of them have seen Mahina as far as what he said, Mihira, pardon me. Like, it seems to me like there's maybe a chance that she literally lives on through them. But I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about. One might think that at that point, the aspect would have had to maybe fall, or maybe something happened to her, or, you know, and then she was reborn through the ascension of her children or something. But what I'm saying is, like, the idea is that, like, if Kayle and Morgana fuse, if they do like a fusion dance, maybe they could be this.
Hey,
Yo, this
did
guy's
you know that we
videos
have
are awesome, dude.
social media and Twitch where we talk about other league facts and stories? And did you know that we have need mugs and shirts too?
Oh my God,
the
that's
links to
huge.
all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.
Yeah, Necrit videos are awesome, dude. It's cool to have someone who's like this knowledgeable and cool with like people reacting to his stuff in the League community for me to just like fucking feed on the the lore of, dude, because it's pretty awesome.